to the Mental Wellness Wake Up Show. I am your host, mental wellness expert and theater creator, Dawn McMillan. Thanks for being here. So what I want to talk about today is working on yourself versus inner work. And I think there's a value in changing language. Language is so powerful. Sometimes it can be frustrating the way that language changes in our culture. And part of the reason why that is important is because words innately bring up feelings with them. In fact, it's an acting technique to actually use the name of emotions to summon the emotion. So certain kinds of words begin to have certain kinds of feeling tones to them, and we want to change them in order to continue to create with our words what it is that we most desire. So I would like to make a case for swapping out working on yourself. I need to work on myself, for it's time to do the inner work. And this inner work phrase comes to me from the femininity community. I don't know who started it. I don't know where else it shows up. But the more I heard it, the more I began to appreciate the change in connotation. Excuse me, I'm very sneezy this morning. I hope you'll bear with me. The change in connotation, like doing the inner work, is in my opinion, a more useful phrase, and I want to get into why. But before I do, thank you for being here. Your time is your most precious resource. We can hack our way through anything else. We can get more money, we can get more friends, we can get more energy, and at least as far as we're living forward in space-time continuum on this planet at this time, time is a non-renewable resource, so thank you for spending yours with me. I am truly honored, truly. And I would be honored if you would also share this podcast with at least one other person. It really does make a difference. And the more of us who are on the same page of transformation that helps make the world a better place, not just for us and not just for everyone we know, but for everyone there is, the more we can create in community, the better we are. The better off we are, I should say. Okay. So let me walk you through how it is that we are here talking about inner work versus working on yourself. Many reasons, including but not limited to. Joe Dispenza has been popping up in my life recently a lot. Dispenza. Joe Dispenza. His famous book is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And I think he's popping up in my world a lot lately because it is helping me frame something I'm observing that I think we could all modify a little bit. So breaking the habit of being yourself has some principles to it that are valid according to psychology and validated by the research that he's done over several years. We think the same thoughts over and over and over and over and over. We have about, 80,000 thoughts a day, and 70,000 of them, maybe even more, are pretty much the same ones we had the day before. Now, people hear that statistic and they think, I'm not thinking the same thoughts today that I thought yesterday. I want to clarify it. It's not exactly necessarily the same thing because you're doing different things throughout the day. But for the most part, much of our mental life is on autopilot. And if it's not in the exact same images, if it's not the exact same phrases, it does produce the same feeling tone. And so we have been conditioned in our bodies to have certain feeling tones over and over and over and over. And then it becomes a point to where rather than having your mind be your mind, your body is your mind. Your body, because it is accustomed to having a certain level of feelings, certain kinds of feelings, begins to generate those feelings in order to create the thoughts that sustain those feelings. Are you with me? We are conditioned to have very similar thoughts in service of very similar feelings, and then the feedback loop perpetuates itself. Why is this a problem? Is your life working the way that you would most desire it to? What happens is, we are programmed with a lot of those thought types and feeling tones before we're 8 years old. So even if we don't want to continue to feel the way that we feel, to live the way that we're living, to think the way that we're thinking, we are so conditioned to it that we keep recreating it. We keep recreating it. I will share with you a pattern that I had for a long time. It showed up in so many ways. So I'm like, okay, this is childhood stuff. The pattern that kept showing up in my life is that I would be around people who supposedly loved me, or cared about me, but were not very nice to me, but they would say nice things about me. So what that felt like was, I'm in this relationship with this person, it doesn't feel good to me, and I am surrounded by other people who are like, oh my God, you're so lucky. What an amazing, oh, that person loves you so much, they're so proud of you. Oh, you're so loved. I'm like, but I feel abused or neglected, or whatever the particular version of that was. Why did it keep happening? Even though cognitively, my prefrontal cortex self, my higher self, my desire to change self was like, I don't like this. And then it would happen again. So if you notice these patterns, I don't know why it cracks me up to say that. If you notice these patterns, it is being generated by the cycle of a certain conditioning to feel a certain way based on certain kinds of thoughts, and then the feedback loop becomes so fast, it becomes indistinguishable from ourselves. We think that this is who we are, we think this is how we are, and even if we start paying people lots and lots of money to change, we wonder why we can't. And it's because we're living from our conditioning. Now, what happens at this point in a conversation is often some of us will be like, so you're saying it's my fault that I have these issues? No, I'm saying it is your responsibility if you want something different. I had a friend who bought a house. It was a money pit, and he kept sinking money into it. This needed repair, this needed repair, this needed repair. Money, money, money sinking into this house. Until finally, he had enough, sold the house, and got out and started fresh somewhere else. The person who bought the house tore it down to its foundations and built something fresh. So if we're going to take this analogy, your personality is the money pit house. And rather than what we try to do, which is stick chewing gum in the holes in the walls, paint over the black mold, put some cinder blocks on the sagging foundation, and we do all of these things to try to repair, beautify this house, rather than recognizing that working on the house is insufficient. Because what continues to happen is what has always continued to happen, because we're building on a shoddy foundation. We're trying to beautify a personality, a way of being, a series of thoughts, habitual feelings that are not resonant with the life, the relationships, the experiences that we would like to have. So to torture this analogy even more, to stay with my friend, right? So he got rid of the whole thing and had to go back to blueprints. He ended up moving to another state. So in our analogy, that is becoming an entirely different kind of person. Becoming an entirely different kind of person. So he went from having a house in Los Angeles, for being a person who lives in a house in Los Angeles, to being a person who lives in a townhouse in Oregon. What becomes tricky is that the familiar is such a strong pull. Even if we are so unhappy, it's so familiar. It's so familiar. I cry every day because my life is total poop. And part of us is screaming out, I don't want this anymore. The rest of us is like, but this is how we are. This is who we are. This is who I am. Is it who you are? Or is it just who you have been? And if you have journals or diaries from 10 years ago, I dare you to read them, because there are going to be things that are in there that you're going to be like, wait, what? I used to think what? I used to believe what? And there are also going to be things in there you're like, I can't believe I'm still dealing with that. Breaking the habit of being yourself is such a wonderful phrase, because it talks about our thoughts and our feelings as habits. There's someone that I know who is in this process of growth and change. And the way that this person talks about it is it feels like dying. In mystical spiritual traditions, they will tell you, you have to die to who you were to become who you want to be. That's what we're talking about. It can feel like a death. We think that our habitual feelings and our habitual thoughts are who we are. And if someone tries to take it away from us, we fight like we're fighting for our lives. It's an illusion. So the question isn't, who am I? Or, this is the way I have always been. Why would you want me to change? I can't change. The better question is, who would I like to be? Let me sit down with a new architect and let me even decide where I want to build, what I want to build. Just because you have been a 3-story Victorian doesn't mean that you have to continue to be. You can decide that you want to be a beach bungalow in Fiji. You can choose to be different. What it requires is an extraordinary amount of courage and patience, because it will be uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. And oh, my blessed friends, we have, as humans, always loved our comforts. In our culture, and I'm speaking in 2024 in North America, United States particularly, we love our comfort more than we love our joy. We would rather be comfortable than joyful. We would rather be comfortable than prosperous. We would rather be comfortable than in love. And so what happens is we will start to take those actions to begin to create the things that we say that we want, and then we, here the air quotes, sabotage them. We're not sabotaging anything. We're reinstating thoughts and feelings and behaviors from our conditioning, because it feels weird and bad and wrong, even if it feels good. Even if it feels good. One of the biggest challenges that people in recovery from substances have is that they get bored. Contentment is way less intense than drama. Prosperity is way less intense than the highs and lows of, am I going to make the rent this month? Joy is way less intense than excitement. And if we are accustomed to misery, if we are accustomed to depression, if we are accustomed to a roller coaster, if we are accustomed to a level of intensity, the sweetness of calm, of peace, of prosperity, of harmony, of beauty, of genuine love, of real connection, real communion. That's the word I was looking for. Communion is much more peaceful than connection. It's not as intense. We're not going to like it. And most of the time, we will freak out. It feels like walking through the valley of the shadow of death, and the unknown, which is, who am I going to be on the other side of this, and what will my life be like, is terrifying for many of us. So when we are seeking change, we are seeking to undo who we have been. And in order to do that, it's important to acknowledge that it is not who we are. You are not your opinions. You are not your feelings. You are the thinker who thinks the thoughts and the feeler who feels the feelings. You can think different thoughts. You can feel different feelings. And so this is where that Adlerian idea of the future self, Alfred Adler, Adler, of goal-based behavior, teleology, meaning over causality, over etiology, what caused it. Who do you desire to be? Who do you desire to be? Oh, I can't get up in the morning. That's just how I am. Is it? Is that just how you have been? Do you want to get up early in the morning and be happy about it? Okay, can you choose that? And can you find a way to tolerate the discomfort between who you have habitually? Is that the word? Habitually. Who you have habitually been, the gap between that and who you are choosing to become. Can you tolerate being uncomfortable? You know what's a good way to practice? Is learning to tolerate being bored. Turn your phone off for a couple of hours in a row. Turn off all your screens for a couple of hours in a row. And sit with that for 90 days. What will happen is we'll do, what in some communities is called a tolerance break. We're like, okay, I'm going to go a week, and then that'll be fine. We can put up with almost anything for a very short period of time. Are you willing to break the habit of being yourself by trying something for longer? This is one of the powers of meditation and why so many traditions have a form of contemplative practice. Can you sit past the discomfort that urges you to return to the familiar? Can you sit past it long enough and with enough curiosity to see what's on the other side? I was I have started a course with, what is her name? I want to say it's Katrina Lakiani. Her last name is Lakiani. And she was saying that when she gave herself the challenge of getting off of her screens, she remembered that for her, playing the piano is just as soothing and relaxing after a long day as zoning out in front of a television, and actually more pleasant. Okay, I feel like this is becoming a word salad. You are not who you think you are. No. Who you think you are may be simply an aggregation of the habits of thought and feeling that you have become used to. We have the power to be someone different. And if we would like to have and do different things, then the way to do that is to be someone else, someone of our choosing. And the path to get there goes through the discomfort of tolerating not knowing and having the courage to let go of what is familiar in favor of what is desired. And in service of that, let's talk about doing inner work versus working on ourselves. Working on ourselves is putting lipstick on a pig. It's painting over the black mold. Doing the inner work is choosing, who would I like to be? Not what do I want to do? That's part of it. Not what do I want to have? That's part of it. That may help you decide who you want to be. But who do I want to be? What kind of person would I like to be? And what kinds of things does the person I would like to be do? And what kinds of things does the person I would like to be have? And am I willing to do the inner work to become someone different? Okay, that was a lot. I might have to listen to this one more than once. And that's okay, because part of the inner work is validating, acknowledging, and respecting the deep pull of the programming that we didn't even do to ourselves. Let us have so much compassion for how it is that we have gotten to the places that we've gotten to. Let us love up on ourselves and on the people, places, and things that programmed us in a way that no longer works for us. Love, self-acceptance, and compassion. Let's begin to daydream and imagine who we might like to be in the future. If you are interested in diving deeper in some other people who have things to offer in this regard, Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Benjamin Hardy has a book called Future Self. Go to YouTube and type inner work. And there's one more. Oh, Alfred Adler. And then The Courage to Be Disliked by a Japanese author whose name escapes me. Yeah, those are all men. I apologize. That's what's in the zeitgeist for me right now. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, Future Self. And there's a couple of Future Self books. The one that I most recently used was from Benjamin Hardy. And then The Courage to Be Disliked. There's another great book, 101 Essays That Will Change the Way That You Think. That's another good one. Love up on yourself. You are beautiful and you are amazing, and who you truly are is this glorious light that was put on this planet to shine and glow and just be marvelousness personified. And if you find yourself responding from your conditioning, just give yourself a big hug and say, that's okay, sweetheart. I love you. Let's make another choice tomorrow or in the next 10 seconds, because you truly are whole, you are perfect, you are complete, and you are worthy and deserving not only of having all the good things in life, but also enjoying them. Okay, you. Until next time.